Please stand for the pledge. Cecily, roll call, please.
Counselor Augsburger. Here. Counselor Bronson. Counselor Bronson, can you unmute?
Here from
you.
Pensacola. Can you hear that?
Yes, thank you. Counselor
Thank
Hagee.
you.
Here.
Counselor Richards. Counselor Sanchez.
Here.
President Pro Tem Thorstad.
Here.
Mayor Coleman.
Present, let the record show that there is 6 present, well, 5 present, 1 online and 1 absent. So today we're gathering for a work session regarding the charter review, the proposed charter amendments. I'm going to pass it on to City Manager Ogden.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for joining us for the work session. What you had sent to you earlier in the week or last week were all of the strikeouts that you had requested staff to come up with so that you could see the track changes in the actual charter document. And so basically now is your opportunity to I'm sure that most of you probably looked through it, ask any questions that you might have, and myself or members of the committee that are here can answer any questions. Staff can answer any questions that you might have. So we'll open it up, throw it back to you all to
Yeah.
begin discussion.
So I only had one question and I brought it before City Manager Ogden and Deputy City Manager pretty earlier today. And it wasn't really a question, it was just more an observation that the oath that's included in the charter is not the full oath that we've taken as counselors. But as we all discussed is not all the directions are here in the charter because sometimes council rules adds to that or code of ethics does as well. But yeah, Cecily actually described it rather well. And if you could do that again, that'd be okay. So
It can always be more what you actually say. It just cannot be less than what's in the charter.
correct. So that's just one observation I had. Are there any questions or comments that counselors have of staff or committee members?
Question.
Madam Mayor. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead.
So questions of what you just stated or our own question? If I'm going to go into my own, I'll go into my own.
Go
Okay.
for your own, yeah.
So I have, obviously I said a couple times before, problems with some of these changes. I'm concerned about the disqualification from running again for office with the 10 absences. It seems somewhat redundant now that we have a vacancy if somebody's gone for 60 days from council meetings. That would be a replacement anyways. I also have concerns with constitutionality of that and legal liability that the city would be open up to if that were to be challenged. So I'm not a fan of that at all. I think the other question that I have is vacancies in office filled by appointment. There's a highlight that says consider establishing a process. Is that not what we have in Section A already, or is this an additional process? And then I have another one, but
Okay, so basically, historically, it's my understanding that if there's a vacancy, the council is the one to determine that process, but there's not an approved process, so it could vary vacancy to vacancy. In lieu of the committee recommending what that process is to be, they simply recommended that council establish and perhaps adopt by resolution what that vacancy filling process would be so that it's consistent going forward.
so I guess I'm confused because doesn't Section A talk about the process?
So this would be, so in Section A, those changes If it occurs in the first half of the term, we would go down the list of people who had run in the previous election, but in the second half of the
Oh,
term,
okay.
it would be by appointment. And so the council would need to decide what that appointment process is.
Oh, okay.
So it's optional if that's something you want to include in the charter, or if you want to do that separately, but it was a point of discussion.
I just needed clarification because I think that's the only highlighted thing I saw in the entire packet, and I was really confused
Okay.
by that. That's also to the point of the 10 absences. There is no formal appeals process. There is no process of what gets excused, what gets unexcused, who gets to make the decision. So if that were ever a thing that I would agree with, it would have to have also some sort of an appeals process or some sort of guidelines of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for absence excused or unexcused. I think it could be weaponized, and I'm very concerned about that. And then lastly, I know that people don't like reading the ordinances word by word for the first reading, but I think it's really critical to know what the ordinance change is rather than just by title only, and removing that from the entire process. I know it's kind of long and annoying, but I think I just don't think that's very good. So those are my 3 comments.
Any other comments or questions from other counselors? Ken, did you have any? I'm sorry, Counselor
Yes.
Brosnan.
Let's go back to the absence things, not the 10 days, but 30 days absent from the city. 30 days, think about that one. So here I'm in Pensacola, I'm attending the meeting, but technically I could be outside of the city of Sweet Home for over 30 days and be dismissed from council if the council decided that that was not acceptable. So that's ridiculous. That needs to be changed. If you can miss 10 meetings and still be on the council, but be outside of the city, attending by phone or video, and still not be in the city and be disqualified for that, that's ridiculous. That needs to be removed. What else we got here? Public comment from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. I don't support that. Take it back to 3. Have we checked into what other cities are doing? How many of them have a 5-minute comment session?
5 minutes
Yeah.
is uncommon.
What's that?
I said 5 minutes is very uncommon.
And that's my point. It can be very, very long evenings at 5 minutes a shot. So long enough with 3 minutes. So. And the last thing here, I believe we need the definition of attendance spelled out. And that would clarify a lot as well. Is attendance counted if it's by audio or video? It doesn't say that. It just says attendance. So I'd like to see that spelled out. Attendance is counted if you're there in person, there by phone, or by video. And at the top, so that clarifies that point. So. That's it for now. Thank you.
And that point did come up in the committee. Right now, the definition of attendance is more spelled out in the council rules. And so the committee was comfortable with the rules outlining that definition of attendance, but it would be up to the council if you wanted to enshrine that in the charter as well.
Well, if it's in the charter and the public is reading the charter, that answers it right there. I'd like to see it in the charter.
Any other counselors have thoughts, ideas?
If there's none, can I go again?
Mhm.
So I want to counter the 3 and 5 minute conversation. I feel as though It's more important to the constituency to feel validated and heard in the people's business of city council meetings than it is for our comfort of a long-winded meeting. So I know a lot of people don't feel like they can get their voices heard and everything out on the record that needs to be said. And so I am in favor of a longer opportunity for people to air their grievances or appreciation to their elected officials.
I agree with you. I think 5 minutes, if people show up and want to speak, I think 5 minutes is fair.
Does our charter committee chair want to speak up?
Yes, I wanted to address one thing that Ken was talking about on the 30-day absence. I believe, if I recall correctly, and I think Blair, you can address this as well as Cecily probably can, but that 30-day absence is not just somebody that's on vacation for 30 days. What that is someone, if you look at essentially that first paragraph is kind of a preamble, and it is removed from the city for a period of 30 days. We believed what that definition, or what the definition of that was an intent not to live in the city for 30 days, that they were gone because they don't live here anymore. And that when they reach that 30-day limit, they are then declared no longer in the city. If you look further down in that same change that we made, we talk about 60-day absences, which that was an expansion to include lengthy time periods away from the city of Sweet Home and the business of the city of Sweet Home. But that was my recollection of it. And Blair and Cecily and Josh can correct me if I am wrong on that.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I thank you for that reminder. I had actually forgotten that conversation when I spoke with Councilor Bronson had called me about that provision and brought it up, and I had forgotten that we had that conversation. That is correct, but that we had that's what the discussion was. I agree that it does come across as confusing in the document, and so if the council wishes, I can investigate some other ways to word that same idea that will be more acceptable.
Madam Mayor, I think also too, I think it was unexcused absences. So if somebody's going to be gone for 30 days too, or 60 days, but to be excused or unexcused has to be a majority of the council to excuse or unexcuse. So that was the point of that.
I have a question about the excused and unexcused. So is it only if someone on the dais makes a motion if someone is absent? So we don't automatically, when they're absent. Okay. Thank you for that.
Most of the time somebody has work or is sick. But I think accountability is key. If somebody is being very smallly compensated for being on the council, but they also took an oath to be here. And if they're not going to be here on a regular basis, I think 10 meetings a year is pretty sufficient. That's actually half of what our meetings are. So they're missing half of the meetings. I don't think that's fair.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, the way I read that part for removal from the city, it almost sounds like we need permission to take like a more than 30-day vacation from the council almost, is how I read it. Like if you're going to be gone, and maybe it's just the removal part from the removal from the city. Or yeah, that's just how I read it. So I don't know if we can reword that.
So we have two counselors who have brought up that paragraph who would like it clarified. So just looking at that one thing that was brought up, do we have a consensus of council to request the city attorney to reevaluate that? Can you speak into your microphone and let us all know?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Or
Yes.
no? Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, City Attorney Larson, for being willing to look into the wording on that.
Question.
Yes, Counselor Brunson.
I couldn't quite fully hear what you said there. Am I understanding that our attorney is going to reword that,
That's correct.
the absence,
Yes,
and
to
spell
make
out
it clear.
exactly what it's?
Yes. Mhm.
So I want to go right backwards a little ways. So am I counted as being present if I am out of the city?
You are on this call right now, and according to
Yes.
council rules, which is part of the oath that we take, we support
Yes.
council rules. You are considered here and present in this meeting.
Got that? But now we go back to being out of the city.
Correct.
I mean, that's confusing the way that is. I think that should be
That's why
spelled out.
That's why he's going to readdress that, because that's
Okay.
not the intent of the 30 days. And City Attorney Larson has offered to readdress that.
And
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I may, yes, I will reword that in because we've talked about the general idea is we don't want, it's the change of residency is the issue there that we want to encapsulate. And so I'm sure there's a different way that we can word that that'll be more clear. The other thing I wanted to just mention is we've talked about council rules and some of the items that are in council rules. Those are obviously more flexible because you just need a majority of the council to change council rules. But once you have something in the charter, you have to do it. There's no way around it. And so I do encourage you to think carefully about what items you want to take care of in council rules and what items you want to take care of in the charter. The way I think of it is the charter exists as kind of a protection of the people, to make the people's will known of how they want to control you. Your rules of how to control each other is council rules is really the way that is done. It would be done. So because there's greater flexibility in that. So that's one of the reasons why when we were talking about attendance at meetings, we talked about whether to put by phone or by video in the charter. And I think the main concern is we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what technology will, who knows, we might be using holograms in 2 years. We want to make sure that there's possibilities in the future to adjust attendance in those ways without going back to a charter amendment. And so if you do want some of that ingrained in the charter itself, my recommendation would be to only put as much language as you need to get that idea across. For example, something to the effect of attendance means that a counselor can hear and be heard, or see and be seen, or something like that, so that it leaves the technology or the actual method up for adjustments in the future.
So counselors, would you like that clarity in the charter, or would you like that in the council rules?
Madam Mayor, may I? So if we're going for clarity and absences versus charter versus council rules, I'm going to go back to this point of qualifications to be an elected official versus behavioral issues and needing to be held accountable for that. I think it's more appropriate to put some sort of censure in the council rules for behavioral issues rather than qualifications for an elector to be elected.
I agree with that.
Okay, so back to the 30-day issue and the attendance. Do we want to have clarity on what attendance means? See and be heard here in the charter, or would we like that in the council rules?
So, Madam Mayor, may I? So if we're going to give a definition for attendance and what that means, wouldn't that also include what would be unexcused and excused in order to comply with the attendance requirements? So we need some sort of definition for that as well somewhere, I think.
If I may, for what it's worth, we struggled with that when we were discussing it in the first place. And one of the suggestions that I had to help out with that will be such requests shall not be unreasonably denied. Because we all know it's that argument of what is pornography. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it type thing. And this is the same type of thing when it comes to a reasonable person. Is a request for absence unreasonably denied can pretty much readily be seen by all around it. And so that was, but when I offered that, and I don't want to circumvent what the committee decided, but the committee decided that that was something that was should be left to a city council. And so that was, my amendment was taken out on that. Such request shall not be unreasonably denied. But you people as a council are free to come up with, whatever you want in order to try to address that. Because that was one of the things that we struggled with when we were trying to come up with something to satisfy the majority of the committee when it came to attendance and repercussion for not just failure to attend, but refusal to attend.
I also believe that we suggested it to be on the council rules and not the charter because of this. The council can make its own rules and disciplinary actions. It doesn't need to be in the charter.
So counselors, regarding a definition of attendance and, yeah, are you guys in agreement to do it in the council rules? I'm feeling like we're getting two sections of this charter convoluted here, so that's where I'm struggling. So the first section would be under 3.1, regulation of elections, and the second section is the vacancies in office. So I'm just trying to make sure we stay clear on those two separate sections.
Madam Mayor, if I may, that's why I asked first and foremost, it seemed redundant because they're both trying to fill vacancies based upon absences. And I was just wondering why we were doing it in two different sections.
If I may, you are mistaken on that. No vacancy occurs based on absences. No vacancies occur based on someone not living in town or someone dying and like that. Those are vacancies that are being filled. But you are kind of overlapping the attendance issue with an actual vacancy that comes later. The section 12 on that, where we were talking about the 30 days and like that, that is completely separate from the filling of vacancies. Vacancies are once a vacancy is established by whatever rules or resignation or death or anything else. And so they actually do stand on their own and are independent of each other and probably should, in my opinion, remain such.
Okay, because that's what I was confused about, because it, like Ken said earlier, the absence creates a vacancy if you're out of the city for 30 days or you don't attend meetings for 60 days. And then we're talking about 10 absences in a different section. So
And that is completely independent of the former.
The 10 absence, I think, is eligibility for
That's eligibility
for
to run
reelection
for office.
is the idea.
It does not create a vacancy.
So counselors, we've heard from a few that we need some clarity on what attendance means, so we can decide to have a council meeting on council rules. And but we would actually have to come to some sort of agreement regarding council rules in that work session, as we've held multiple work sessions where things haven't. We've spun our wheels. So if we're going to determine a definition regarding attendance for our council rules, we can agree to do that now as long as we're willing to actually work through it and get to something. Regarding the charter and how these proposed amendments are written, we kind of need clarity on where you stand. I think we understand, Counselor Sanchez, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not fond of the 10 days. Is that correct? Okay. Other counselors, we start with that 10 or more regular city council meetings in a 365-day period. The Charter Review Committee, made up by community members, put that in there. And as City Attorney Larson said, the charter is for the public and how they want to, direct us. And council rules is how we want to direct each other. And so this is what the public has come up with. I need a consensus on that section since that section has been brought up. Counselor Hagee, what are your thoughts on that?
I kind of questioned I mean, I assume the legality is like all worked out, but like having the charter like make somebody ineligible to run for the following election, like there's no issue with like legality with that, like just because you're absent, you have 10 unexcused absence within a year. Now you cannot run for. Yeah. I just want some.
Certainly it's anytime we're talking about ineligibility for office, that's certainly a concern. Can it be challenged? Anything can be challenged. However, there is state law that is currently in effect that kind of does the same thing. That has been challenged as well, and I don't recall if that's fully resolved yet. But that certainly is something to be cautious about, and I did look into it before when the committee was reviewing it, and didn't find a reason specifically not to include it at that time. That is certainly something I can take another look at and review for you. But it is one of those things where there's not a lot of case law on this. And so it's kind of guesswork as to whether this would be challenged or not. I can, if you'd like, I can get the current state of what the challenges are to the state level proceedings, and we can kind of take our cues from that.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, so, if there's 10, I mean, they'd have to be unexcused. So, I mean, the chances of this happening, I feel like, are pretty slim, even, with the majority of people having to choose that, make it non-excuse, or to not excuse it. But I mean, other than that, it does, I mean, we're all here. We should be coming to meetings. I mean, that's why we took the oath. That's why we got elected. We're here to represent the people that voted for us. So if this helps make sure that people are at the meetings, I'd be okay with it.
Your turn. I agree with this.
I agree with Counselor Sanchez. I don't want to open the city up to any potential liability from a challenge. So I would support removing that component from the charter.
Counselor Bronson? Counselor Bronson, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. So what are your thoughts on that section?
My thoughts were that I'd like to hear more about what's going on with the state
Okay.
and what the legalities are there. And make a decision once we know more about that.
Okay.
However, if we go ahead and pass it as is, I'm okay with it.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and agree with Counselor Hagee and Counselor Bronson about knowing where it stands with the state. And if we can come back to this portion later, that would be 3 people in consensus regarding that half. So the next portion that's come under question is the vacancies in office in general, and you're going to find some new language on that. That's what I understand. We came to a consensus regarding that. Is there another portion of this that has been brought under question that I'm missing?
I didn't have anybody agree with me, but I was concerned about not reading the ordinance directly, just by title only.
All right, so let's get a consensus on council regarding that portion of this proposed charter amendment. Your thoughts on reading the full ordinance, Councilor Bronson? Or not reading it?
Read it.
Councilor Hagee?
Yeah, I agree. Read it.
Okay. Pro Tem?
I don't only.
Councilor Augsburger?
Read it in its entirety.
Okay. Well, we have a consensus on council to remove that portion of the charter. From the perspective of what I've heard from the people who attend the meetings, and those that were on the Charter Review Committee, this is one of the biggest issues that they had issue with in council meetings. And I know that's true of staff, but we have a consensus of council. So that portion will need to be removed. Is there any other portion of this charter?
Madam Mayor, may I? The amount of time that folks can speak, I'm in favor of the 5 minutes.
I heard only one counselor want to change that back to 3. Any other counselors have an opinion in agreement with that?
And just to clarify, this is a new charter section. There's currently nothing in the charter regarding time for public comment. So it's not that it would revert to 3. It's that we're proposing it at all.
Isn't the time limit like in the council rules?
It
as
is
well?
in the rules,
Yes.
and the chair currently has discretion to modify the time, and
Yes.
this would remove that.
So, Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
So currently under the rules, the chair can say, hey, for this meeting, we're going to give everybody no less than 5 minutes, no less than 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, I would like to just leave it as is.
Leave it in this charter
No, as
No.
is currently.
as
Yeah.
is, the charter is currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Councilor Augsburger, you said you liked the 5 minutes? Okay. Pro Tem?
I'm good with whatever it wants.
Councilor Sanchez? You said it already, but
Yeah, I
More
like
information?
to ensure that the community knows that they are in fact going to get a set amount of time instead of left up to the discretion of the chair. So codifying it would be important to me.
As the mayor and as the chair of the committee meetings, I would rather it not be codified. I'd rather it be something that could, when there is a crowd, make adjustments to it. So I kind of prefer the council rules because there's flexibility within that. So did I count? I'm not sure I counted correctly there. Councilor Hagee would like it to stay currently not in the charter. Councilor Bronson wants it back to the 3 minutes. I would like it to be in the council rules, and Pro Tem, that you said either way.
Yeah,
So we're
Which-
tied right now.
we're tied. Oh. I agree with both points. Sometimes people need more than 3 minutes to speak on certain topics. But I am concerned if we have a major thing going on in town and we fill the room. But I'm okay with you being here all night. So if that's what it takes for the people to be heard, then. But like I said, I like both points. I like to be able to have the control. Whoever is mayor can make a decision on how long that people can speak. But if it's just somebody coming and talking about an agenda item, 3 minutes is a long time. So, like I said, I'm split on this one.
Well, I don't think anybody really wants to deny the public's opportunity to speak. So I think that's where I'm torn too, but I'm just not sure I want to codify it into the charter as to the length of time. And just to be completely transparent, I thought the rules said just 3 minutes, and I'm a bit of a rule follower. So now I know there could be more flexibility in that for the people. So that's good to know. So
Could we make it a separate item on the ballot where the people can say how long they want to speak?
So, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
You certainly can do that if you wish. The main question is whether you should. It's a question of what reaction you get. But this is a work session, so if you don't have consensus on an item, that doesn't have to be resolved in this meeting. When it comes time to bring this to a regular council meeting, when you have a vote, there can be different options at that point, and striking out of something or inserting something else. Obviously, it's best to air these things all out so that there aren't any surprises for staff in the middle of a meeting. But that's mainly by law, we can't have a vote. We can just kind of work through things during these meetings.
you are bringing back some new language regarding the 30-day issues. So yes. So we can think about that and come back to that. Any other issues within this proposed charter amendments that need to be brought up and discussed?
Madam Mayor, may I?
Mhm.
So when Josh said a little bit earlier about can we have separate ballot issues, is that something that we can discuss in this meeting? Because I think last time we talked about, can you bring back some information about single ballot titles or putting the whole thing in one vote, or
Yeah.
do you have any more information on that?
I actually do. I was talking to another city attorney this morning about this. What's interesting is the constitutional requirements for single subject apply to petitions and initiatives, which are started by the people. This would not actually, this would be a referral from the council to the public. So there is not as much restriction on how this is put on the ballot. Depending on how big of a question there is, the attorney that I talked to earlier was from the city of Tigard, which did a recent overhaul of their charter. And so it was essentially the similar size to what we're dealing with here. And they chose to do the entire thing all one question up or down. If there are, if there are some things that are more important to you that you want to make sure have the best chance of passage, you can, as far as I can tell, separate that out and have that be a separate question. It does make the ballot measures a little bit more complex to write, but I haven't found a reason not to. It's probably cleanest if you do it all in one question, but there's certainly some flexibility there.
I heard from staff today that it would be great to put it on the ballot in May, and then as an entirety, and then if people don't like it so much, we can divide it out in November, since both May and November's elections are free to access this next year. So. Any other questions or issues that counselors would like to bring up? Okay, well, it sounds like we've got some marching orders, and we will come back to this after we get some more clarity on the language and find out more information on.
Sure,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, if I may, one point, and Cecily emailed me about this, and I noticed it. I just wanted to make sure you were aware, because I don't even know if the committee was aware. The League of Cities recently put out an updated version of their model charter. And one of the points, one of the changes in that model charter is right along with one of the changes that we decided to make, and it has to do with the provision on interference in administration. And so we, in the committee, revised some language that I was comfortable with, and I'm still comfortable with it, but the model charter does it in a slightly different way. And so that is a great document for you to consult if that is an issue that is of concern to you, or if you would like me to give you more information in a memo form, I'm happy to do that as well.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I don't, if you're satisfied with what's been written, I'm good with this. I actually read through that section and thought I really liked what the committee did there. So thank you for the work that you guys did on that particular section. I think it's clear and simple. So the other charter seemed a bit wordy. So yeah.
After reading that model charter, the only thing is I did like their use of the word coerce, whereas in the committee, I think we had the word demand, mainly because coerce has a connotation that is a little bit easier to prove in court. And so that may be one to ponder, just that one word change.
Well, I like the word coerce better. So I don't know what the counselors say.
I do too, and I really like what changes were made in that as well.
Any other counselors prefer coerced over demand?
I support the word coerced over demand.
Thank you, Counselor Bronson.
I agree as well.
I also agree.
As do I.
Any other points that counselors, staff, committee members want to bring up? No? Okay.
So if we could just have direction, is there a desire for us to come back for a third work session with those proposed changes in January or February?
I think a work session would be easier to discuss than in a council meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I do want to say thank you to all of the staff and the committee members who have participated. It's been a lot of meetings, a lot of time, and a lot of digging in. And so I just want to say thank you to Mr. Jarvis and all the others. And Pro Tem, appreciate your time. And to Adam and Cecily and to City Attorney Larson.
And I would like to thank you once again for trusting me and putting me on the committee and letting me and the rest of the committee kind of have free reign at what we were doing and to see if we could come up with some things that were improvement. The only other thing that I will remind you again is that on anything that and Blair can correct me if I'm wrong, anything that we recommended, if you like a concept but you don't like the way we constructed it, you are perfectly free to redo that because you are the ones that are making this decision at this point. You know, we punted it to you guys, and so it's all in your lap now.
Thank you. And that just gives us another opportunity for counselors just to review it. I'm hoping we can have the language. I don't know if we can have the language even before the next work session to just chew on it a bit. That'd be really helpful. So I will close this work session out at 6:15 and we'll start council at 6:30.